Hey everybody, good afternoon. I hope you are having a great day, enjoying the weather today. It's Good Friday, and I never know whether to say Happy Good Friday or what. I don't know because it is a day that we reflect on probably one of the most terrible things in a vacuum that ever happened that ended up being the greatest thing that ever happened. It's a mixed emotions for believers and rightly so. And so I just wanted to spend a few moments talking to you guys just a little bit about some of the story around Good Friday and the crucifixion and everything that leads up to Easter. If you didn't get a chance to check out our Facebook page from yesterday, I reposted what a friend and a pastor of mine wrote about what Maundy Thursday is. If you ever wondered what that was and what that was about, he had a great post about that, and so you could check that out and see what all that was about. Also, be sure to check out Pastor Garrett's stuff at Ames Baptist. I think they're doing live stuff at 6 o'clock on Facebook. He's got some great sermons for the next. He's doing four sermons leading up to Easter. And it's really good stuff. So, but I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about part of the story, the crucifixion story, that sticks out to me the most every time I read it. When I read this part of the story, I just get so kind of blown away by what happened here. Obviously, the whole story is incredible, but there's a specific part that I always kind of catch myself just going, what in the world was going on? What were they thinking? How could that have happened, right? And so I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine, we were at a hospital, and of course I think it was a Catholic hospital. I don't know what kind of hospital it was, I forget, but there was a cross on the wall in the room, and he's a believer, but he grew up not not having crosses around. His family and their belief systems, they didn't believe in having crosses. And there's a lot of well-known pastors that just don't believe that we should have the cross, that we should celebrate the cross. To them, they find it offensive, and obviously it is offensive. It was a tool used to bring about probably the most heinous deaths that have ever happened in history, right? Some people equate it to having the symbol of your religion be the electric chair or a noose or things like that. And while to some degree that's right, the truth is that the reason we have the cross and that we celebrate the cross is not because it was an instrument of death. No, it's because the one who died on the cross, right? Like nobody ever went to the electric chair for somebody else. Nobody ever went to the electric chair for everybody else. And that's the power of the cross. And so today on Good Friday, as we look at the cross and we really think about what the cross was about and who it was really for, I'm drawn to the story of Barabbas. I'll be reading it from Matthew here. It's in Matthew chapter 27. But just an incredible little encounter here. Pilate is trying to find a way out of crucifying Jesus. He's trying to find a way to release him because he knows that Jesus has done nothing wrong. He knows that there's nothing that he can hold against him to say you deserve to die or you deserve to be put to death on the cross. And Pilate knows this. And in fact, his own wife even said, "Hey, you need to let him go because I've suffered greatly in a dream because of him last night," right? And so Pilate is desperately trying to release Jesus without causing some sort of rebellion. And unfortunately, um, I guess depends on how you look at it, he wasn't able to do that. In fact, he even went as far as to put Jesus up next to a hated, notorious murderer and insurrectionist, somebody who was despised by literally everyone, the Jews, the Romans, everybody around there, to try to get them to choose to give Jesus his freedom. They don't do that, but here in Matthew chapter 27, just verse 17, or verse 16, it says, "And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, 'Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus who is called Christ?'" Now, the tradition was that at the time of the feast, the Roman who was in charge, and at this point it was Pilate, would release a Jewish prisoner as a sign of good faith and goodwill at this time of the year. And so he's doing that, and he's hoping, probably praying that they're going to choose Jesus, right? And it says there in verse 8, for he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. And then besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, have nothing to do with him, that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream. Now think of the difference of history if Pilate would have listened to his wife, right? Think of the difference in history if most of us would listen to our wives a lot of the time. But obviously he didn't. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, which of the two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. And so imagine this. You've got Jesus on one side and Barabbas on the other of Pontius Pilate. And he says, which do you want me to release to you? And the crowd is screaming, give us Barabbas. Give us Barabbas. That's who we want. We want the insurrectionist. We want the murderer. We want the horrible human being set free. That's who we want to be free. And Pilate said to them, then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ, who I find no wrong in, who as far as I can tell, has done nothing wrong and done nothing but serve you and teach you and heal your people? What shall I do with Jesus Christ? And they all said, let him be crucified. And then Pilate asks, why? What has he done? And there's no answer other than crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And I think about this part of the story, knowing where it's going, obviously, knowing what's going to happen and the outcome of all of this. The people there at the time didn't know that, right? In fact, when I think about this story and I think about what was going on, there were only two people there who knew and understood the impact of what Jesus was doing. There were only two people. It was Jesus and it was Barabbas. The cross that Jesus was hanging on was meant for and made for Barabbas. It was built for him. The two thieves that Jesus was hanging next to were probably members of the insurrection group that Barabbas led. That cross belonged to him, but Jesus took it for him. Now, we don't ever see anything else about Barabbas. We don't find out later on that he's come to believe in Jesus. We don't know if he went on and continued his insurrectionist ways. We don't know any of that because none of that's written, because the truth is, the story is not about him. The story is about Jesus. The story is about what Jesus did and why Jesus did it. I told you at the beginning that I had a friend once who asked me what the deal was with the cross, right? Why do we have crosses in our houses? Why do we wear them on necklaces? Why do we get them tattooed on our bodies when it's an instrument of such death and anguish? Why do we write songs with beautiful hymns about the old rugged cross and the power of it and what it does? And the reason we do that is not because we look to the cross and we see Jesus hanging on it necessarily. Our cross is empty. The cross we hang on our walls is empty. The cross that we sing about is an empty cross because Jesus is no longer on it. We carry those crosses. We hang those crosses because those crosses were supposed to be ours. Just like Barabbas, that cross belonged to us. A lot of times when we read the story of the crucifixion, we like to place ourselves or put ourselves in the part of the crowd, right? Like people say, well, every one of us, we were shouting, crucify him, right? And I don't think that's who we are in this story. I think that I am Barabbas and you are Barabbas, and every one of us look and we see ourselves in Barabbas because Jesus took the cross that was meant for Barabbas, just like Jesus took the cross and the punishment and the death and the shame and everything that came with our sin. He took it for us the same way he took the cross for Barabbas. Now, the difference is we have an opportunity to know the final outcome, and to then look at the cross and allow it to move us to love of God and to love of Jesus and to knowing and understanding what he did for us and the power of that. And so on this Good Friday, as you spend some time considering the cross, as you spend some time looking at the cross and thinking about the cross and you hear songs about the cross, remember the reason we talk about the cross is, well, because it was supposed to be ours. Because Jesus took that for us, because he knew that we couldn't. He was sent to die on the cross for us. That's why he came. That was his whole purpose. And then he did that. Now, tomorrow, on Saturday, um, it's another day of mixed emotions, right? Because again, we know the end story, we know what happens, but thinking about it at the time, how terrible that must have been. Those 24 hours or however many hours it was from the time they put Jesus in the ground until Mary went out and found that the tomb was empty. We can still look and consider the cross. Even in our darkest times and in our times of most struggle, we can still consider the cross and remember what Jesus did for us and that Jesus died for us, right? And that salvation is available because of what he did. That if we repent from our sins, the sins that he died on the cross for, and we believe in him, that we will have new life. And that's what's available to us. It's available to every single one of us. And so if you'd like to pray a prayer asking God's forgiveness, and you can do that today. If you need to talk to somebody, you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to anybody at our church, or honestly anybody that you know that is a believer right now. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching it, you know people who are believers and Christians, and they'd be able to talk you through it. But when I consider the cross, to me, I thank God that he sent Jesus to die on that cross for me, to take that cross for me. And the crosses I have up and the times that I think about it are reminders to me of what he did. And that pushes me forward to living a life the way God has intended for me to live. And so that's my prayer for every single one of us, is that is what we would do on this Good Friday, is we reflect on the death of Jesus, reflect on the role of Barabbas, and understand that each of us in our own way, we are Barabbas, that Jesus took that cross for us so that we didn't have to. I love you guys. I hope to see you soon. I've seen a few of you here and there, just in passing, coming by the house. So Stacy is passing out communion cups, pre-filled communion cups to the youth kids. They're taking communion tonight at 7 o'clock through Zoom. And so if you've got a youth kid or somebody that wants to be a part of that, be sure you connect with Stacy either through the Facebook page or the GroupMe stuff. And I think we're going to get a few more of those to have available on Sunday. If anybody would like to come by the church to pick them up, and then maybe later on Sunday afternoon, once we have time to pick them up, we can get on and take communion together through Zoom. But we'll be sending some more information out about that. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope to see you soon. Enjoy your Good Friday. Enjoy your Saturday, and look forward to a Resurrection Sunday. I'm excited for it. I know you are, and we're going to celebrate it, even if we're celebrating it through a computer screen. So I love you guys. We'll talk to you later.